Hi guys, this is the Star Killer Guitar here, back again with another podcast. I have the great pleasure of introducing someone new to the podcast. It's normally just been Costin and myself for a couple of them, but today we've got someone from the other side of the planet to me, a lovely Australian bloke who is a massive Star Wars fanatic, knows more EU and more lore than I could possibly ever know ever. Uh, I know a bit about the EU, but I'm not well versed in it. This man is. Welcome to Callum Johns.
Hi Kyle, thanks for that. I don't feel like I know everything, but yeah,
Oh, you'll know more than me. I
yeah,
mean,
I know what I know from just reading it and getting into it, so that's pretty good.
yeah, I mean, well,
So
like I said, I mean, this podcast we're not going to be covering much on the EU, like Legends or the new canon or whatever, because that could just be like a whole 10-hour podcast that would just go on
yeah,
forever.
could
And
talk about it for ages.
yeah, and it's nearly midnight over here in the UK, so I've got work tomorrow, so
Oh
frankly,
yeah, you don't want to go for too long then, yeah. Fair enough.
yeah, so that's just yeah. So we'll just stick to it and talk about. Obviously, both big Star Wars fans, as you can tell by my previous YouTube content, where I just ramble on about stuff, and say my opinions and that, and also with Callum's page. He is the moderator in Star Wars Appreciation and Fair Criticism group. He's the moderator in the Star Wars discussion group, both Facebook pages. So check them out if you're listening to this.
I think for a
And
full rundown, I think I'd say I created the Star Wars Appreciation and Fair Criticism Society is the name of the group. And my page is Star Wars Fandoms and Memerisms. So pretty much just putting, well, not just Star Wars stuff, but whatever I feel like up there. And then I'm actually a moderator and not just a Star Wars discussion group, but I've been asked to help out with a couple of other groups as well. But for more, you can always just message me anyway if you find me on Facebook.
yeah, well, they're the only two ones that I'm part. I think no, I might be a third. I can't remember anymore. There's too many groups to keep up with.
Yeah, there is really.
Yeah. So anyway, we're just going to talk about the latest stuff with Star Wars. I think we'll just get cracking with starting talking about how the Resistance show is going. Obviously, opened up the trailer to extremely negative reviews. I think the actual YouTube channel's got over 100k dislikes or something like that. I
Yeah,
haven't
at
checked it
least
in a while,
130k dislikes,
but
something like that, compared to like 13k likes. It's ridiculous.
yeah. I mean, to be fair, I can understand because the animation. I've seen better animation in fan films on YouTube. It's
Yeah. Well, then you have
pretty.
Forces of Destiny
I mean,
was made as well, so.
yeah, I didn't keep up with that.
No, I
So
didn't either. I just looked at it and was just like, yeah, the animation's bad, and I'm not that interested in it.
yeah, I mean, no, I've heard little bits and pieces that it's pretty shit, but I've never got into it myself, so I don't really want to, based on everything I've heard about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Resistance. I watched the first episode and I was honestly bored. I didn't feel engaged in it. I wasn't that interested in the characters. Didn't really feel it. And yeah, what did you think, Callum?
Yeah, that pretty much sums it up, I think. I mean, I think as a kids' show, it would be enjoyable enough just for kids, but I think that as far as Star Wars goes, it's not that great. I'd say that.
Yeah,
So, George Lucas originally made Star Wars for kids, yes, but he also made it appeal to a wider audience, and I think Star Wars needs to keep to that.
yeah. I mean, that I totally agree with you. But because I did think watching it, there is things about it kids will enjoy, and that's absolutely fine. I've not got a problem with that, but yeah, there's also comes into the discussion of how kids content can work for adults as well, and you can't, because the thing is, you watch Pixar movies, I'm assuming,
Yeah,
yeah.
I've seen a bunch of them.
Yeah, I mean, and you'd say with them, they don't just appeal to kids, like, because they've got a lot. There's a lot of adult themes and a lot of adult messages in those movies, and I think Pixar. I mean, when people say Pixar make kids films, I disagree because I think they just make great movies and they just go out for the most part. They've obviously got a few duds here and there, but I think for the most part they just go out and make great movies and just make right. It's just and it's not that hard. It's not like you look to a demographic or whatever. It's like you just write a simple story and you write characters that are interesting and relatable. It's not rocket
Yeah,
science.
you
But
shouldn't be just focusing on, oh, make it for kids, put all this childish stuff in it.
yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
but that's the problem with not. I mean, with a lot of these writers these days, they feel like oh, it's for kids. You have to dumb it down. It's like it doesn't feel like it's made by writers or folk. It feels like it's made by a banking system. Just seeing like how much can we make out of how kids are going to view this or how much we can make through XYZ, which has been the massive problem with Star Wars since Disney bought the thing, really, because it just feels like they're just ticking all the boxes of what makes the cash from a superficial point of view, but they're not actually looking into what it was that made Star Wars great in the first
Well, yeah, I
place.
think you could say that about sort of Hollywood in general, is that they're just looking to make cash and they're lowering the quality of the story writing.
Oh yeah, I agree. I fully agree with that. I mean, especially like most of these franchises, is why there's so many sequels and that. They're really just banking systems more than anything.
Yeah.
And it's been that way for a while, to be honest with you.
The object of a movie is to make money, but it shouldn't be at the expense of the story.
No, exactly. I mean, that's also why I have a problem with this formula Disney have of trying to release a new Star Wars film every year or trying to release a new superhero. Even with Marvel, release a new superhero movie every 3 months or something.
Yeah.
I think like some it feels like they're releasing a superhero movie every 2 days with.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
I just lost interest because
yeah.
of the quantity in a shortest amount of time that they release. Eventually, at the end, I just
Yeah.
downloaded them illegally and and just binge watched them all.
We're not condoning pirating here, okay?
But I just binge watched them all.
I don't want any YouTube but police on my back. Okay, I don't want any flaggers on me. So try to keep that clean,
Okay.
alright?
But yeah, I just ended up binging them at the end because I'm like, yeah, I can't be bothered going to the movies, and movies are expensive, so I'll just watch them at home.
Yeah. No, I agree. No, to be fair to you, man, I think a lot of folk are going that way now as well, where they just see, or they're just waiting, like 6 months, just waiting for it to come onto Netflix or, or they rent it out or whatever, just because, that option's there now, really, and it's, yeah.
And thinking of Resistance, apparently it's only on the Disney streaming service, which is like, yeah, I don't want to pay for an extra one like that for it.
Yeah, no,
I wouldn't think it's worth it.
I'm very skeptical about giving Disney any money at the minute, just because of how they're going about things. Especially after obviously The Last Jedi, which has all been said, so we don't need to go into great depth there. But but what are you thinking about that anyway?
As far as giving money to Disney, well, I'll praise them for the good stuff that they do, I think. Like, Pixar's still under Disney, and if they make any other good movies, then I'll support that. But as far as the actual Star Wars content, I don't let them stop me enjoying what I want to have, so I get my Star Wars t-shirts or whatever. But in the other token, I don't really want to support the bad content, like I don't get any of the Last Jedi merchandise or anything.
Yeah. The thing is, like, even like you go into the Disney shop or you go into any any shop that's selling all the merchandise, and it's just the new stuff. It just isn't appealing. I don't know, and it's like even like the kid in me is not excited and not like really wanting to pumped up to want to buy anything, because even though like I was a kid when the prequels came out, and even though obviously they haven't held up for me in my adult years, like as a kid I was still excited to go and buy a Darth Maul toy, or to get a Darth Maul lightsaber, or to um get an Anakin Naboo fighter or a pod racer. But now it's just all just it just all sucks, really. It's just not inspiring.
Yeah, I
I
think
mean,
that's something at the core of the movies themselves, is that they actually get you excited. Even the prequels, no matter how bad the execution you think might be, actually got people really excited for Star Wars again. Whereas
mhm.
people were really excited at The Force Awakens, and then you can tell by the box office numbers that about half the fan base dropped away between The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was quite half, but it
Approximately,
was, yeah, it
because
was
if you look at the
it
box
was
office figures, The Last Jedi is approximately about half, made about half of what The Force Awakens made.
it was just over. It was like 700 million less than
Yeah,
TFA
big
did.
numbers.
But no, it is a steep drop. I
Yeah,
mean, but I think a lot of that was because like Force Awakens, people still went to see it in subsequent viewings. I mean, I went to see it like 3 or 4 times
yeah,
in the cinema. So,
and people still
whereas
enjoyed The
like,
Force
sorry,
Awakens predominantly more than The Last Jedi as well.
yeah, yeah. And yeah, that's the thing. And with the Last Jedi, a lot of people saw it once or twice in the first week, and they just didn't really want to go back and see it again. So
Yeah,
that's
and then you
and
get
the
Solo,
box office drop.
and then you
Sorry.
get Solo,
Oh yeah, yeah. He gets so,
which are
which
yeah,
is yeah,
which is a few different factors
which
probably.
yeah. I mean I mean nearly $1 billion. That's a steep drop. I mean. I mean, obviously the folk who boycotted it can say like, "Oh, it's a victory," which in some ways it is, because I do think that played a big part. But also you've got to take into account other things like the time of release, the production issues that were well documented. It had the fact that nobody wanted a Han Solo movie,
Yeah,
as well. Because I know a couple of folk who do actually like The Last Jedi, but they had no interest in seeing Solo at all, so they just didn't bother going in and see it. So that's
yeah, that's pretty much the idea. Which I think would have been better to actually have a spin-off that covers the 30 years between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens to help set up for the sequel trilogy, if they want to support their sequel trilogy so much.
But even that though, I mean, because I mean, the thing is with George Lucas. I think he was. I told you this before. He was an excellent world builder. Like
Yeah,
he could, the prequels, for all their flaws, like at least understood where the universe was at that time, and generally what the stakes were, and obviously how Palpatine was manipulating both sides. You generally got that in terms of the basics. In this one, you've got a republic, but the First Order, who were as powerful as the Empire, but then there's the Resistance as well, who are resisting the First Order, but why are they separate from the Republic? Shouldn't they be part of the Republic? And
yeah,
it's
and
just,
whatever was the New Republic anyway?
uh,
In the
but
new
was
timeline
blow was
anyway.
yeah, and then that's the bigger problem with the Last Jedi. It's like, why did nobody give a fuck that the First Order just blew up 5 planets in the Force Awakens? It's like, the first, or I guess the First Order are in charge now. It's like, what? How did that
And the New
work? When did that
Republic was only
happen?
5 planets?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like that's where like the absolute lack of direction with these sequels is just
And
a
some of the
very
story
apparent.
writing, like if we actually saw the New Republic more before, we might have actually cared that they died.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, I honestly just think because obviously the Force Awakens is basically a soft rehash of A New Hope, and it just feels like very formulaic, like they're just looking to restart Star Wars their way, but they
Yeah,
don't
they
seem
played
to
it
get.
very safe with that, which I think was a bit of a mistake myself.
Oh, I agree. I totally agree. I mean, it should have. Like it should have been like because I actually don't think that The Force Awakens is necessarily a bad film. It's a bad sequel to the original trilogy, but I don't think. I mean, I can watch it as entertaining and its own merits, but I mean, as a sequel, it's absolute dog shit. I'm not gonna hold my
Yeah, you're not
cards
going to
there.
mince words there, yeah. Well, even that, you compare it to what we had as a sequel before, which was only in the EU, which actually progressed the universe rather than rehashing
Yeah,
it.
yeah, exactly. I mean, the obviously the Heir to the Empire Thrawn trilogy, that's a brilliant trilogy. That really, like, I think takes on from the OT and follows on, and then obviously there's other stuff after that which I personally didn't read much of, but I mean I'm sure you know much
Yeah,
about.
fair enough.
So
Well, about the same time as The Force Awakens was around about the Legacy of the Force series, which also parallels a solo kid turning to the dark side.
okay,
With Han and Leia's son Jason actually turning to the dark side in that series. But
yeah. I read about that. I didn't actually read the book, but yeah,
yeah, but just before that, but we followed along with him as well. Like they showed us the character development of him as a child, and then there was a whole new Jedi Order series, which is a huge series. It's 19 books, but it's the whole Yuzan Vong War, which other people seem to love or hate the idea of the Yuzan Vong.
yeah.
Uh, anyway, you see his progression through that, and you actually follow the characters along rather than just jumping to where they are. Which
But
I think is the
that's the
thing with
thing.
Luke
That's the thing where I can
Skywalker
cut
as
them a
well.
little. Sorry, that's the thing where I can cut them a little bit of slack because obviously, like 19 books, you can't adapt all that into 3 movies for a trilogy.
Well, yeah.
Um,
I think the best option would have actually been leave the books as they are and create an original trilogy past Crucible, which is the last novel in the timeline.
yeah, I mean, I do agree with you there. I mean, I don't. I mean, it's just the way they absolutely like basically did away with the whole of the EU and dismissed pretty much everything of it. I thought that was really quite low in many ways because
Yeah,
that's work
well,
of.
there was fun times with that because around the time, just soon, sort of in between that time between 2012 and 2014, from Disney buying it until the reboot, they were saying that they were creating the story group to actually pick and choose the bits of the expanded universe that they'd keep as canon, and the bits that they'd actually put as legends, as they now call it. But in the end, they said, no, we're going to just throw out all of it and do our new timeline.
Yeah. It's pretty shocking. I think. I mean, like I said, I don't think because I think it was possible to have something good with obviously the OT heroes and carry on the Luke Han Leia thing like 30 years later with new characters around that. But at the same time, I think their story in the movie, I'm talking about just in terms of the movies here, their story ended with Return of the Jedi. So that's where it was, I think, a bad
well,
idea.
that's where George Lucas usually says that the story ends as well.
Yeah. I mean, so I think that's where they should have just been left there, and if they were going to do a sequel trilogy, it should have been like 100 years later or that, where.
Yeah, that would have been awesome. I'll do it in the Old Republic.
Yeah, well, the new Republic now, but yeah.
Well, what I mean is, say, in the expanded universe at least, the Old Republic starts from before 1,000 years before the prequels.
Yeah, yeah.
So you have the whole lot of all the Sith there before they disappeared, and you have a heap of Jedi characters that you can make and make your own interesting stories in that time period.
Yeah.
Rather than just, we have to make a sequel. And bring in nostalgia with all the original characters as well.
Yeah, and yeah, it's just basically the way they've, I mean, taken it with. I mean, it's just the way they've like kind of just taken it like just take it like a cash grab, and it's like they don't really care about the responsibility and how much people love these characters, and they're just kind of using them as remember this, remember him, remember that, and
and then the Last Jedi was like, remember that, yeah. sucking titty milk. Sucking...
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. I tried not. I was not going to bring that up, but yeah, it's just.
Yeah.
I mean,
But,
I don't know what like was going through anyone on set's mind, like when they filmed that scene. Like,
or
I
even
don't
just
know.
Lucasfilm when they watched it and approved it.
Oh no, exactly. It's like what I mean. It just served no purpose. It's like why? Why are you throwing Luke in the dirt like this? And
I can
you
understand
know,
showing a bit how he survived on the island,
yeah,
but
but
that's
really
just a
just
bit
served
far.
no purpose at all.
Yeah.
But the actual, well, if you can call it a story, the actual story, it served no purpose at all, other than just
Yeah.
what just showing us like that he drinks milk and in
Fill up the
some
time
ways
because we have to make up the time because we only have this short amount of time because the fuel will run out. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean
Anyway, yeah.
that's the thing. They made a thing of that in Solo as well, didn't they? With hyperfuel, even though like in none of the other Star Wars films we actually had to care about fuel before the Last Jedi. So yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
Well, actually, they
not
do mention fuel in the Phantom Menace, but that's only because hyperdrive was damaged.
well, hyperdrive leaking. That's yeah, no, that's not really sort of fuel though. That's more like repairing a
Yeah,
ship.
I
So
think they
yeah,
actually
but
say we don't have enough fuel to get the Coruscant because the hyperdrive's leaking. I
aye, but like
just
to
remember a
yeah,
bit,
but to
but
use it.
that's still it's damaged. It's not. They have enough fuel to go that far just from a working ship, so it hasn't been a plot point as such. It's more because it's
Yeah, but
damaged.
to make it a plot,
That,
sorry, to make it a plot point that drags the film out for a best part of an hour, and then you find out the majority of that hour was completely worthless when Holdo tells Poe his plan when we actually know what Holdo's plan was. It's like, you
yeah,
know,
that's just ridiculous. Anyway, we could talk about the next thing rather than rehashing all that, probably.
yeah. Yeah, so obviously, I mean, we could get back to the Resistance a bit. I mean, like I said, what did you think of the? You've seen
Well,
three
overall,
episodes, haven't you?
yeah, I've seen the first 3 episodes that they released. I think does have potential, but like we already said, it's still very childish at the moment. The plot's not very deep. But then
Yeah.
again, the Clone Wars and Rebels I didn't like the first season really because it was quite childish and I probably was still getting used to the animation. But as far as those go, they actually developed better as time went on. So it has potential. So it just depends what they do with it in the future. And
Yeah.
it might have to have a season or two to actually get into it properly.
Yeah, I mean it is possible it could get better, but I mean I don't know. I was just like I said,
At
just the first episode I was bored and I
And
didn't
also,
really care.
yeah, bored. I wasn't very entertained by it. I was always just multitasking. It was on in the background in the end. But the thing is, we want to see the events that lead up to the sequel trilogy with these stories, right? So we see Poe Dameron, and like the first episode's alright because we think, oh, it's gonna tie in, and then randomly BB-8's left there for no reason. And
Yeah. But
so
even
we're
even the
taken
first
away
episode,
from what looks like
even the
main
first
events.
yeah, even the first episode, they don't really explain anything. It's just kind of you're just in there and you have this guy Kaz. Is that his name?
Yeah, I think so. That's the main character.
You have that guy who's just meets Poe Dameron and then goes on a little adventure with him, and then it goes into him having to win a race for something. That's what I remember. I
Yeah, the
remember of the plot
animation
anyway.
obviously reminds me of Dragon Booster, if you remember that show.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that. I've never watched it though.
Yeah, I watched it when it was on TV as a kid a bit. And yeah, it reminds me of that style of animation, which can work with a good storyline, which I can ignore bad animation for good storyline, but in the same token, the animation isn't great, and then the story isn't great yet
Yeah.
either.
Yeah, but you just think like Disney with how much money they have,
Oh yeah.
they get better animation than that. I mean, it's not so much to me it's bad. It's just it's so cheap.
I feel like they just put all the money into the season 7 of the Clone Wars because they think, oh, that'll make all the money.
It's possible. I mean, I don't know. I
And
never
there's
cared
also the
much for
live
the.
action show that they might just allocate a certain amount of money to Lucasfilm and then they've split it up to focus on The Mandalorian coming out and that sort of stuff.
It's a possibility. I mean, I don't know of the behind the scenes of the budgets and that and how that's going.
Yeah.
I am quite interested to see the Mandalorian one though, mainly because it's John Favreau who's heading the project there. So
Yeah.
I'm interested to see how that goes. But
It'll be interesting, yeah, because as far as the Clone Wars goes, my thoughts on the Clone Wars is about mid-range as far as in all Star Wars material. But after
yeah,
that,
I
as well, they portray the Mandalorians very differently to the expanded universe, and I prefer the expanded universe ones. So hopefully,
mhm.
we'll be seeing a return to more of the expanded universe like Mandalorians rather than the Clone Wars ones, which I wasn't as interested in.
It's possible. I don't know. I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, I think because I think John Favreau's like fairly in tune. He knows what works with storytelling with characters. I
Yeah,
mean, you've seen the first Iron Man. It's
yeah.
shows what he's
So,
capable of. I mean, that's a bloody brilliant film, in my
yeah,
opinion.
I think the start of the MCU was good and then it trailed off a bit.
And that's the thing. That's the thing with the MCU. I think this is where the whole Kathleen Kennedy against Kevin Feige thing comes into the conversation because the Marvel films, for the most part, still hold up okay. Like if they've had like a few wee blips, but for the most part, they've been a pretty okay standard.
Yeah.
And then
And the
obviously
standard's been kept
Infinity
after
Wars
Iron
was
Man
really
3,
good,
I think.
and Kathleen Kennedy is just like has no plan and no vision for Star Wars other than the obvious feminism stuff she's wanting to push with it.
Well, yeah, it's hard to say exactly where that comes from, but she'd have oversight over that and at least have to approve it. But then
But I
I'd
mean, I
also
think
say not to directly say it's all Kathleen Kennedy as well. I'd say they have the story group for a reason, and the story group actually is supposed to be guiding the storytelling.
oh
So
yeah,
it's
the thing is,
becoming
like, I think
from she heads the
she's the
story group.
main one responsible. I'm not saying it's all her fault,
Yeah,
obviously, but she's the main one responsible. And then I think above her, the responsibility should be more on Disney, like so Bob Iger and that. I think
yeah,
they're ultimately
because
responsible, like those lot there, and then Kathleen Kennedy's obviously mainly responsible for the creative decisions that go on in Lucasfilm, and then obviously the story team, which
yeah.
is whatever to me, and then
Which is an interesting question I actually talked to with someone at one point is who would you actually pick as in charge of Lucasfilm if you had them change leadership?
oh, I would say Dave Filoni, but at the same time, it's like not. I sorry. I mean, it's just because he's like, the job itself. It's not just a case of the creative stuff. There's obviously a lot of
Yeah,
financial stuff that goes with that as well, which obviously Kathleen Kennedy does have experience in that regard, like the accountant stuff, which comes with producing, which maybe Dave Filoni
yeah,
doesn't have so much. But I mean, I don't know, like just someone like similar to Kevin Feige, I think, who actually gets Marvel, who actually loves the source material, and who actually appreciates the fan base. I mean,
yeah. I think that's a good sort of way to look at it, and it's hard to pick actually one person for it. As far as story, I was thinking of Leland Chi because throughout all of the time he's at Lucasfilm, he's actually managed the continuity.
mm-hmm,
And he used to do it with Alan Korsh, but no, I think Alan Korsh left
mm-hmm.
at the Disney buyout part. But as far as he goes, he's great with continuity, so I think he'd be good to lead story and then help manage it. And while you can get creative ideas from other people, you have someone in charge who looks at the continuity and makes sure everything lines up.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You can have it. It's someone who actually does care about the story rather than just looking to make money off it, because that's really all Kathleen Kennedy is. She's an accountant producer. She's not an innovative
Yeah.
producer.
I think as far as a role in that I would say that you minimise the role of the president of Lucasfilm a bit and just say it's more managerial as far as accountancy and making sure the business runs well. And the story decisions would be left to the story department.
Yeah, I mean, I don't trust this current story department though. I mean,
Oh,
maybe
yeah.
maybe Leland Chi. I mean, you might be right. I don't know a huge amount about him other than he's obviously been there for quite a while. Pablo Hidalgo, I don't trust anymore at all, because I think he's
Yeah.
just he's not helped himself with how he's responded to on Twitter to the fan backlash from the Last Jedi, and then the rest of
Yeah.
them. When I read, I don't know much about the rest of them, but when I read through, I've read bits and pieces, and they don't seem. I mean, I just think, how are you in a job here? And then you
Yeah.
look.
Well, I don't know a lot about the other members, but I know Leland Chi was there before 2012 in the Disney buyout, and that he was doing a really good job as far as that goes.
I know. See, yeah, I'll take your word for it, because
He's quieted down after the Disney buyout.
yeah. Well, it's just sad, really, just how it's, because I'll be honest with you, when Disney bought it from, I was excited, I was pumped for more Star Wars, and now I just kind of
Yeah.
think I was probably happy with what I had. So
Yeah, well, thinking about that, I wasn't sure first, and then The Force Awakens looked good. I got a bit, but I tried not to buy into the hype, but I bought into the hype a bit for The Force Awakens. Because I imagined what potential it had from reading the expanded universe as well. And then it pretty much just let me down as far as story wise went.
yeah, well, I mean, I don't know, I loved it like the first couple of times I saw it, and then it was like after that, the cracks started to appear a bit, and then I saw folk moaning online, oh, it's just A New Hope again, and then I watched it a third time and I kind of say, okay, I have to agree with it. I mean, I did see parallels in my first couple of viewings, but it's mainly because of its Star Wars hype just got me a bit more. That I was kind of.
Oh yeah, I think it's not as much that it's a New Hope rehashed. It's just the story hasn't gone very really anywhere. Luke and the rebels defeated the Empire for what? Now just another big bad's come back along and
Yeah, exactly. I agree with you
reduce it
there.
back to Empire versus Rebellion.
Yeah, basically, it's like, yeah. And because even that, like, it just that's why connecting to the Return of the Jedi just makes no sense, really.
Yeah,
So
and I could sort of see where Ryan Johnson ended up deciding the direction for The Last Jedi from some of the way that The Force Awakens went. But again,
um
it's hard to tell.
well, like, again, I don't think, like, you can make excuses for how he wrote Luke Skywalker, and you can't make excuses for Holdo, and you can't make excuses for some of the
Well,
absolute
yeah, as far as
rubbish
this
decisions he made,
story,
because
some of the rubbish decisions, I was thinking in general,
yeah, I mean,
like, uh, as far as Luke being exiled, that was a lead in from The Force Awakens, so he did what he thought should be done with that, which
yeah, I
obviously
mean,
you don't
obviously
agree
it was
with.
still in exile, but there was still things you could have done with what JJ had left for him to do,
Mm,
left for him, and he just decided to basically ignore the fact there was ever a map to Luke in the first place, and he basically decided to just ignore basically everything just to make him a
yeah, he didn't have to make him
port.
like that, because I
Yeah.
thought the possibility was that he could have been there. Because I think as part of that actual storyline, he was there for 6 years or something.
Mhm.
He could actually be training maybe one or two students properly rather than failing multiple students.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean,
Something
but
like
that's the
that.
thing. Like, he was, obviously on the island, and himself, and he just like you just kind of think you get the impression it was because of what happened with Ben Solo, and you think like looking at Mark Hamill's facial acting, you think sort of he's a broken man. Obviously things have gone wrong that maybe he can't go into. Maybe he obviously feels guilty about what happened with Ben Solo, and then you find out that he was actually the cause of it. It's like, no, this is the man who fucking
Yeah.
this is the man who fucking saved Darth Vader. And now he's just gonna
I
kill
think
this
one
little
of the
boy.
main things was actually that because in Revenge of the Sith, at least in novelization, it says that Obi-Wan and Yoda go into hiding with the plan that they want to teach Luke enough to know the Jedi way, but to change it so that it doesn't repeat the mistakes of the old order.
Yeah,
Whereas I think that in the new timeline, he actually just repeated the mistakes of the old order, and that's how he ended up failing.
yeah, exactly. I mean because obviously I get annoyed when folk compare Luke's exile to Obi-Wan or Yoda's, because ultimately those two characters didn't give up the ultimate
Yeah,
cause.
they had Luke and Leia that they put their faith in for the future.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing, because they and even they themselves, like, they were obviously old and past their prime, and they couldn't defeat the Empire on their own anymore. So they knew that Luke and Leia were, sort
Yeah.
of where the future lies, and they couldn't do it by themselves anymore, and
And
you
I
know,
think, at least by the novelization, they saw how their way led to their defeat with the no attachments rule and the arrogance that was building in the Jedi Order at the time and everything.
yep. If only we got that more in the films, that would have been great. But
Yeah, it would have
whatever.
been. There's always the expanded universe, yeah.
But yeah, that's what.
Just a
Yeah,
lot of books to read through.
Sorry, I didn't catch what you said there.
Just a lot of books to read through, but in another way that's good because you got plenty to occupy your time.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I did read the Revenge of the Sith book. Actually, I thought it was a really good book, and just it makes me disappointed in the
Yeah.
film in a way, just because. I mean, I definitely
Oh yeah, I
agree.
think it's regarded as the best movie novelization.
Yeah, I mean, it's the best. I think Revenge of the Sith is the best of the three prequels, but it's got a lot of problems with it. Um, and it's just Anakin's turn to me is just so rushed. I can see what George Lucas was trying to go for. It just was so clunkily executed, and
Yeah, the execution's the thing that seems a bit odd with some parts.
mm-hmm.
But then again,
Yeah, I
George
mean,
Lucas
especially
did
how he
pad it
goes
around
from.
with. Sorry.
Oh no, sorry, you're. I didn't.
Yeah,
Can you? Do you want to say that
that's
again?
alright. George Lucas did pad it with the Clone Wars micro series, which actually helped a bit to explain it.
Yeah,
Because I
get.
think his intention when he was helping make that was that people would see that before Revenge of the Sith and it'd help pave the way into Anakin's turn,
Mm-hmm. I
as far
mean,
as that goes.
yeah, I get that, because I thought the micro series was very good, but I mean, I've always been one that movies have to stand on their own ground. I mean,
Mm.
you should have like third party media like the Clone Wars series, maybe to explain a few like extra little details here and there, but the
Yeah.
main crux of the story needs to make sense on its own within the
Well,
movies.
it's hard to separate. I think I've said
Pardon me.
before, it's hard to separate the actual material because I always think of it when I watch it now. But I think that given that there's the space when he's been through a whole war with Palpatine whispering in his ear the whole time and everything, then it makes sense to me anyway.
Yeah. I see where you're coming from, and that's totally fine. I just didn't think it was that well done in the movies. Like, I mean, I love
Yeah,
Ian
fair enough.
McDermott as Palpatine. I thought he was brilliant, but there's still how he came to power as well. I mean, relied a lot on the good guys
Jar
being.
Jar Binks.
No, no, not just Jar Jar Binks. It relied a lot on the
Yeah,
good
I know
guys
what
just
you
being
mean.
so stupid or downright outrageous luck. Like he
Yeah,
sends
fair enough.
Padme back to. He allows Padme to go back to Naboo and like reclaim Naboo, but it's like, how were you so certain that she would just reclaim it like that? I mean,
Well, yeah, I think that that's something that the books do better because they explain that a bit more, because it's more his own thought process rather than we just visually see it and we don't really see what he's thinking.
Yeah, I mean that's the books though.
Because
That's the
I think he had a plan for both cases. If you read Darth Plagueis, it does work very well as a prequel to the Phantom Menace. But yeah, like you said, it is just the books and not the movie itself.
Yeah. Because I mean that's the thing, like with the books, because you could do the same with the new canon and the sequels. You could add as much stuff as you want from the books around that, and that it would all connect up brilliantly. But it doesn't say that much about the movies themselves, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like they can't ever fix the response from jumping from Return of the Jedi Luke to The Last Jedi Luke, because we didn't see the journey along the way. Because I think it's more than just failing Ben.
Yeah,
There's more
exactly.
to the story, which they'll probably explain later, but they won't now.
Oh yeah, no, that's. I mean, it's still going to come across in a really retarded way. It's like when
Yeah, especially if you're doing a movie marathon.
Sorry.
Especially if you're doing a movie marathon, the last time you see Luke is Return of the Jedi, and then instantly cuts to Exile Luke. Yeah.
Well, we're probably gonna get like 50 movies in the next 50 years or something, so they'll have plenty of gaps to fill, but still gonna be pretty stupid.
I think Episode 9's just gonna be. It might be the last one I actually go and see, depending on. I've decided I'm gonna go see it because I started with the sequel trilogy. I may as well have closure.
Yeah.
And then after that, maybe the anthology movies, but otherwise, not the main ones.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably the same as you, mate. Just. I mean, I'll see Episode 9 just to kind of get the sequel trilogy over with, and I am genuinely interested to see how J.J. Abrams is going to sort out what he's been left with. Obviously, I don't expect him to pull through at all and fix it at all, but just out of curiosity, I mean, I'm not really that bothered after that.
Yeah, fair enough. Especially given JJ's history with endings there.
Oh, he's not ended anything in his life. I mean, you see all his.
Well, I've just heard about it because I haven't watched a lot of his movies, but apparently
all
Lost
his
doesn't have a very
movies,
good ending. And
all his movies have like a pretty okay first act. Second act, like has good things in it, but the third act always falls just completely flat on its face, and it's just the weakest part of his movies.
And now they're trusting the third act of a trilogy to him. Fun times.
Exactly. The thing is, he's all in some ways he was kind of perfect for The Force Awakens from the mystery box sense, because he's all mystery box and very little substance.
Some good plot lines to pick up, like Rey's parents and that sort of thing.
Yeah, because that's the thing. He's all mystery box and like next to no world building, and he's all. I mean, even the Star Trek films. I mean, I enjoyed the first one, but I'm happily admit it's all spectacle. It's all like fast pace and and it's all it's just all like surface level and all spectacle. But when you actually look into the layers underneath, there's not all that much. And
which I think is something that we could say about the new timeline in general.
Yeah.
Especially with shows like Rebels, there's a bit deeper themes to it, but you can still some things. But with Resistance coming out and the movies, Rogue One was just to try and fill a plot hole in A New Hope. And then Solo wasn't that deep because we didn't actually see Han become the cynical person he was in the original trilogy, which I think was the main thing for me.
No, I mean, well, he goes through basically the same arc as he does in A New Hope. So he goes from a street urchin trying to escape and get a better life to, pardon me, goes from that to helping a group of rebels near the end. So yeah. And then realizing
which
he's
I still
a good
think
guy.
When he joins up with the group 3 years later or whatever, which they completely skipped 3 years for some reason. which apparently is in the novelisation.
But that's the baffling thing. It's like 3 years and his goal's still the same, to go back and save his girlfriend. It's you think 3 years your goals would change a bit by then if you've been separated for that long, but
Or you think that maybe she might have actually died.
well, I don't know. Just from
Because of
his own experience, like with the Empire, I would have thought it changed him or something, but
Yeah,
obviously
you'd
not.
think so. Because Kira said, "You've always been a good person."
But no, he's bad.
He's always shot first, yeah.
Yeah, that's the one bit I did like in I did like in Solos. At least they gave us that he shot first, so that's
Yeah.
take that, George Lucas.
Original theatrical cuts all the time, yeah.
Yeah.
I
And
think...
yeah, sorry, you got to say something?
No, that's alright. Go on.
Oh no, I was waiting for you to say something because I haven't
Oh,
really got anything to add at the moment.
fun times with conversations, yeah. As far as the special editions go, I think the graphical updates are good, but they didn't add much, really.
No, that's all I care about. That's all I care about with the special editions is that, because a lot of the tweakings of the actual content itself was really unnecessary. It was just fine as it was.
You can completely understand, like, the Emperor hologram in Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah,
and
but he
the
changed.
Rancor
Yeah,
scene
that was fine, but he
Return of
changed
the
the
Jedi
dialogue.
were the main ones for me. Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know.
Because it was like, it's clear from the opening title crawl that Darth Vader's goal is to find Luke Skywalker, and then it change the goal graph to having to not know Luke is his son at that moment. It's like, he's chasing him from the start. I think, we get by the end why he was chasing him.
Yeah, and people have already watched the movie in the movies, so they know the plot twists anyway.
Yeah, I mean, because that conversation with the Emperor was really just, I think to me establishing who is Vader's boss, and also like to just confirm that the Emperor sees Luke Skywalker as a threat, pretty much. So
and he made an intimidating figure as well. As
yeah,
the
exactly.
Background sort of pulling the strings part.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with you there. So yeah, the special editions, apart from the graphic updates and that, I'm not that keen on any of the changes, really, to be honest. Maybe one or two wee ones, but
I prefer to leave Sebastian Shaw's Ghost Anakin as well.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Because to me that's like who Luke saw behind the mask, so it should have just been should have just stuck that way.
And he was Anakin Skywalker in those last moments.
Mm-hmm.
So you wouldn't have a mouth burnt to a crisp Force Ghost.
Yeah, and he never saw young Anakin either. So
yeah, some people argue it's because the last time Anakin was actually a Jedi, but
yeah. The last time is when they say the last time he was good. Like the last time he was good, he just threw the Emperor down the shaft.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I think too.
Yeah, so no, that doesn't work for me either.
And if they can do that, then Obi-Wan may as well be younger. And
yeah. Yeah. Or Yoda just goes back to his youth days as like, a fetus.
Yoda goes back to the Phantom Menace puppet, yeah.
Or even before that, he just goes back to as a child. He's like so he's just jumping around like.
Yeah.
Well, he was kind of like that in The Last Jedi with the cane, wasn't he? Like, it's like.
They really played on the playfulness of Yoda that was in the original trilogy.
Yeah. I don't know. It's like, did Rian Johnson forget Star Wars? Like, did he forget that Yoda was only like a goofy asshole like at this when he first meets Luke, just because he's really just testing his patience?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And later on, he's actually trying to test him and train him properly, so he just plays the wise sage part.
Yeah, like I said, he only acted like that a little bit just to test Luke's patience. More, not.
Well, he was messing with Luke because the books were taken by Rey anyway. So,
Ugh. Yeah, I don't.
and a little thing that I missed the first time that I saw it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's yeah. I missed that as well. It was I think it was like the second viewing. I saw. Oh, okay, yeah. So yeah, it's like you stole the book. No, you stole the books. And it's like I don't know. It's my brain hurts thinking about
I
it.
thought I thought Yoda was just burning the tree because he felt like it.
Yeah, I think he's just too. I think he was just trolling Luke, to be honest. But
Yeah, pretty much.
yeah, and Force Ghost can call lightning from the sky now. So, and there's
Yeah, it
been
totally makes sense.
yeah, and there's been speculation that Luke's ghost is gonna do something spectacular in the next one. So it's probably going to be a case of he's gonna
Even though
do.
that was Mike Zero. Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably gonna be a case of like Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End, where Calypso just like makes the water swirl and the rain come down in the battle of that.
I
Probably
mean, that'd
something like
actually
that.
be cool, yeah. Never mind that there was actually trade-offs to being a Force Ghost. It's like, yeah, okay, I'll just kill myself and become a Force Ghost now. So I'm super powerful.
Aye.
Yeah.
Not much more to say on that, really. It's just
You
anything's
just,
possible
yeah,
now. Anything's possible now. The lore doesn't seem to matter anymore, and.
because you because it's all fantasy. I heard someone say it recently in my group. It's all fantasy, so you just believe whatever happens
Aye,
and
but
accept it.
it's fantasy's fine, but you can't have it where it's creating plot holes in what came before and it's inconsistent with
Yeah,
what came before.
and I think it comes to what Matt Wilkins said. He has a great YouTube channel, but he's all expanded universe. But he's done some great videos talking about things. He's had a video talking about who cares, and that the hardcore fans are the ones that actually care about the details in the lore, and the casual fans don't. And so, from a casual mindset, they can't understand why it's a problem.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Part of me wishes I could be
It
more.
extends to hardcore film fanatics as well, and that sort of thing, like yourself.
Yeah,
And some people just paying more attention and caring about it. Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
Some of the comments I've seen people make are just ridiculous as far as trying to explain some things.
oh yeah. The defenses for last year have just been baffling. Like it's like it's even like blatant stuff that's just it's not even like a nitpick. It's just blatant. Like how can you defend that? I mean, I'm not saying these folk like can't like the movie. That's absolutely on them. That's fine. But yeah, it's just stuff that's not consistent with the what the established lore or what came before it, or even within it itself. I mean, you can
Yeah,
say
even within itself.
yeah, I mean, you can say, okay, that doesn't really make much sense, but I can still enjoy it. It's fine. I mean, that's absolutely fine. But it's when you're trying to like twist it and like make and get all defensive and that. It's like, no, no.
Because I was talking to someone in one of my groups, and they were saying about the whole Rey and Kylo with her parents thing, that, oh, but he was going into Rey's mind to find out what memory she'd suppressed or whatever. And it's like, how did you get that from the movie?
Yeah, because no, but that's the thing. Anything with plot holes or gaps in the plot or stuff like that isn't explained in the film, like you can add that from your own head canon. You can do that with any movie at all. You can just add,
Yeah,
nad,
because
nad.
I think there was the two versions of that could be looked at now. Is that Kylo was lying and he was planting something in Rey's mind to try more subtly, because she isn't trained to guard against anything subtle from force probing.
Yeah.
That he planted something in her head that's the idea that her parents are nobody, so she should give up on it. Or the other one where she suppressed her memories because they were nobodies, whoever calls their parents nobodies. And
Uh-huh. Yeah, that was just Ryan Johnson saying to the audience, like, look, this your investment in the previous
Yeah.
thing doesn't matter. Basically, that's what I think.
I'll say it diplomatically. A lot of things could be interpreted to be directed as the fans
Yeah, no,
being
I really think that
sent a
moment was where Ray
message.
says they were nobody, because who calls their own parents that unless you've had
Yeah,
unless you had like a
and
serious
she's
like
the one that held out
thing happen.
hope for so long on Jakku that they'd come back for her. She'd
Yeah,
obviously think there's someone that actually cares about her.
yeah. So like, why would you just suddenly say, oh, they were nobody? It's like, no, that doesn't work as a line of
Yeah,
dialogue in the context at all.
yeah, pretty
Yeah,
much.
yeah.
No, talk about something different, may as well.
Is there anything else you wanted to?
Well, we could talk about some of the news with Chuck Wendig.
Oh yes. Obviously, big news: Chuck Wendig fired from Marvel Comics, and with Star Wars content that he does. But obviously, main reason is because he's a trolling asshole on Twitter, and anyone who criticizes him or disagrees with him in any way is an asshole according to him. He doesn't respectfully say, okay, I agree to disagree with you. He has to either block you, he has to either call you names, and he has to just be a complete asswipe, basically.
Yeah, well, even on the tweet that he was saying that he did a thread on for when he was fired, he was calling everyone names and everything, which is ridiculous.
It's like, I mean,
No wonder he was fired for the image of the company.
oh no, he was. It was totally because it was bad for business. I mean, if you're speaking to your customers like that, I mean, how do you expect them to react? I
Yeah,
mean, it's like Ryan Johnson going calling folk man babies because they don't like his movie. It's like, how do you think folk are going to react if you speak
yeah.
to them like that? These are your customers, mate.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to actually take note that Marvel fired Chuck Wendig and not Lucasfilm.
Oh yeah, yeah, because I mean, but
I
that's the
know he
thing.
was writing
Marvel,
the
Marvel
comics
generally do
for him a
take
bit.
do have to keep their reputation intact, because at least Kevin Feige does seem to, for the most part, appreciate his fan base, and even Robert Downey Jr. said that we've what I think Marvel have really listened to their audience and their fans, and they
Yeah,
do seem to. Infinity War showed that to me, that they do seem to
yeah,
take the fans
especially
on board.
after Iron Man 3, I think.
Yeah.
Some heads got knocked and they started paying more attention.
Yeah, exactly, and they've had. I mean, oh yeah, and the whole Comic Gate thing, which I didn't keep up with, so I can't go into much there with you. But
I didn't really keep up with it either.
yeah,
But
but basically, like,
mm,
it's a case of, like, if you're speaking to your customers like that, you can't really complain if you're bad for business and you're booted. It's like a kind of like in a football match, a manager just goes and starts, like, shouting and swearing at the supporters of the football club, and tells them, to go and fuck off somewhere else, so they don't, if they're not, like, if they're
yeah, and
booing
you
and
expect them not to fight back about it.
yeah. It's like you can't. So I mean, that's the thing. Like, these folk are supposed to be professionals at the top, and if folk are giving them, hassle on Twitter, I'm not defending the folk giving them hassle, but it's just ignore them, mute him. It's not
Yeah,
terribly hard. You don't go about, like,
I
calling
think
them
it's a good
names
idea
just because
with a
you.
lot of people on social media that are just toxic, that you
Mhm.
just block them or
Pretty,
whatever.
pretty much. I
Or you
mean,
just ignore their comments.
yeah. I mean, that's the thing. It's like it's not that hard, but yet they make a big thing about it, and then they have, like, obviously the whole Kelly Marie Tran thing as well, which
Yeah, which is interesting to note that she didn't actually mention anything related to Star Wars in her article.
yeah, I mean, the thing that pissed me off about that
I
is,
get some of the racism and that, but it's like the editor had to put in that it was about Star Wars harassment that she left, and it's like that seems to be a bit of a stretch when she doesn't mention it herself.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from there. It's just the way she kind of said it's a white dominated world thing, and it's like, what? Why would you
Oh, yes.
use that as an excuse? I mean, if there's folk giving their grief, that's not good. But
I
it's more
think
because
it's modern society as a whole rather than just
yeah, but it's like I mean, yeah,
other
that's
things. But
another thing because I just
yeah.
think like these folk who are giving folk grief online, it's because they're assholes, not because of their race or their gender. Just
Or she took the think people saying things about Rose really personally when on social media you shouldn't.
oh yeah, agree with you there. I mean, yeah. So the folk who are racist, obviously they can get fucked and go to hell. But when you're bringing the race and gender thing, it works to me. It works should work both ways, like because it should be like
Yeah.
or it should work always. You shouldn't be like, yeah, just it's like no, like if they are hassling you, just say oh it's just they're a bunch of assholes and I didn't want to put up with it anymore. That's fine. Just leave it at that.
And it's not the actor's fault anyway, it's the writer
Oh no,
of the character.
Oh yeah, I totally blame Ryan Johnson for Rose and for
And
Kelly's
then I
performance.
think it's a management issue at Lucasfilm with actually hiring him when they knew what he was like.
What with Ryan Johnson?
Yeah,
Oh,
because they
oh,
could look back at his history and see those videos saying, "Oh, I want to make a movie that people either hate or love it." And also the old video, I think I saw one of them say that he's not good at writing with a time constraint, and even when he
yeah.
does, it turns out bad. So you'd think you'd take those into consideration.
Well, if it's Kathleen Kennedy steering the ship, it's not going to be that case. It's a I think it's a case of like who's gonna comply. I also think it's because who's gonna comply to XYZ, not so much to do with storytelling. And
Yeah, like Lord and Miller were fired because of creative differences.
yeah,
And then the other director for episode 9, I forget his name.
Colin Trevorrow.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this might sound controversial, even despite what Trevor said that he wanted Luke and Leia alive for episode 9. Even with that, I'd still take J.J. Abrams over Colin Trevorrow because his Jurassic World films are so shit. It's
Fair enough.
and
Well,
there's
yeah, I haven't been interested in Jurassic Park since the first movie. Like, I watched the first one and then I thought, oh, that's cool. I don't want to ruin it for myself by
no,
watching the
don't mate,
sequels.
don't see any of the sequels. They're all bad. But then there's. I mean,
Yeah,
Colin Trevorrow, like fair play to him how he speaks to his fans online. That's fair play to him there. But at the same time, like it's good. You're good at PR. Fantastic. Doesn't mean you're a good writer and director. Yeah.
yeah.
Uh,
Which, yeah, who knows? Apparently, there's a trailer for the Lord and Miller version of Solo, which would be locked behind bars now. But it'll
yeah.
be interesting to see.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing with the money they've lost in that and how much they spent in Solo, they might as well have just kept the Lord and Miller cut. To be honest with you, and just let them finish their
Yeah.
project because instead of wasting
And
more
let
money on
Ron Howard
reshoots,
direct a movie all himself.
pretty much, yeah. And yeah, so it's like why? I mean, if the movie like was going to do as bad as it did, why did they waste all this money on wait on the reshoots? Just let Lord and Miller put their cut out and see how it goes.
Which it could be some things connected to Disney a little bit as well, as far because Disney decide the timing of when the movies come out,
Mm-hmm.
and they've been known to put some movies under the bus, as you'd say, like Treasure Planet in the
Yeah.
past.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they just expected Solo to flop anyway, so they didn't want it to succeed by leaving it longer or what.
I don't know like the ins and outs of that. I mean
It's all
they definitely should have
speculation.
moved it back to December time. I think
Yeah.
just especially like in the like because it was still like at the peak of the backlash from the Last Jedi, so they should
Oh
have.
yes.
I mean,
And while people are still angry about The Last Jedi, especially when they keep bringing it up in the PR,
yeah,
then they're not going to
exactly.
go see another Star Wars movie.
Yeah, exactly. It should have been, yeah, it should have been a case like, the wait till December. I mean, and a few folk they would have like calmed down a little bit. Not a lot, not everyone. Obviously, there would still be a lot of folk calling for
Yeah, but
boycotts, etc. But yeah, like a few folk would die down, and I think they would have at least made their money back. But you know,
yeah,
the timing, and
I think they just made the over the production costs,
yeah, exactly. I mean,
which at least they covered their production costs, I guess.
yeah, and how much money it cost as well, and and still the cinematography in it looks shit. And it's the most expensive Disney Star Wars film to date, and the lighting is dreadful.
Yeah. Oh, there's one thing I'd say for this. Most of the new movies is the cinematography has been good in The Last Jedi and
Oh
Force
yeah,
Awakens.
yeah, yeah. I agree. I
Rogue
fully agree with
One.
you. I mean, the main problem with the cinematography in Solo was just the lighting. It's just so poorly lit.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's so dark. Oh, I had a laugh when Honest Trailers video came out
yeah.
for Solo. It's good.
Uh,
Here's a movie after the other movie that they fired the directors because they didn't like what they did and all that.
yeah,
Yeah.
because apparently they didn't go along with Lawrence Kasdan's very serious script. So
Yeah. Fun
uh,
times.
the fact Bob Iger just got interested in Solo being a thing when Kasdan pitched to him the scene of Han getting his surname says a lot to me as well. Like, is that
Oh
really
yeah.
is that really what compelled you, Bob?
It's just cringe to me, really.
Oh, it was one of the most unnecessary add-ins to any movie I've ever seen. Like the most unnecessary thing ever. Like, because he's alone. What clever writing.
Yeah. And while we're talking about Solo, I'd also recommend the AC Crispin and Brian Daley Han Solo trilogies in the Expanded Universe. They're really good books.
Oh, okay. I'll keep my eyes open for them. Check them out. And
I think they reprinted AC Crispin's. I'm not sure about the others.
oh, okay.
But yeah.
Well, check them out if you're listening.
Yeah.
Uh,
Because if you like Solo and you managed to enjoy it, which I did enjoy it, even though the story wasn't quite what I thought it should be, then the AC Crispin trilogy you'll love because it covers pretty much all of Han's backstory over the 3 books, and the last book really leads into A New Hope. Well,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, with Solo, I somewhat enjoyed it, but it's not a good prequel to the original trilogy. I fully agree with that.
yeah,
Yeah,
because I'd say I managed to enjoy it as a popcorn movie.
yeah,
Because I've gone in with no expectations, especially after The Last Jedi.
yeah. I was the same going into it. Like, there's,
The Force
like I said, there were
Awakens.
moments I enjoyed, but on the whole, it's just like meh movie. It's like I'm not that. I mean,
I
if I
did
don't
think
see
the
it
way
again,
that
I'm
they
not that
introduced
fussed.
Chewie was unique.
Sorry.
I did think the way they introduced Chewbacca was unique.
Somewhat. It was kind of like in some ways an aping of the Rancor scene from Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, they paralleled that a bit, but the way it was Chewbacca was interesting.
Uh,
And also interesting to note, in the expanded universe, the vocal range to speak Wookiee, which is Sri Wook is the language name, is actually you can't speak Sri Wook properly to be understandable because it has too many nuances to it.
okay.
Which is interesting to note when thinking about how Han in the Solo movie speaks Sri Wook,
All right. Okay. Yeah.
and it's just more understanding. They go through a whole thing in some of the post Return of the Jedi material of Leia learning to understand Chewbacca,
Okay.
which is
That's cool.
interesting.
That's cool. That's cool. Interesting. Yeah.
Mm.
Anyway, anything else to say on the
Cool.
Chuck Wendig thing, or because
Not really. I think we
yeah.
covered it because basically, if your PR's bad, then you're not going to be kept for too long, I don't think.
Pretty much, especially if you're connected to Disney, who obviously we know the whole James Gunn thing as well. They're
Yeah.
the PRs, they're really strict on their PR stuff. So yeah, so I've really got to see on that as well. Is there anything else you want to talk about? Because I'm thinking I might wrap it up pretty soon, but
Unless you think of something, you don't have anything particular that stands out.
yeah, no, not really myself at the moment. It's nearly 1 o'clock in the morning over here, so I'm getting pretty tired.
Yeah.
So, uh,
Yeah, it's nearly 9:30 in the morning. Yeah.
oh well, you enjoy your day while I go to bed. So,
Yeah, you enjoy your sleep
yeah, I
then.
would shake your hand if I wasn't on the other side of the world. But
Yeah.
yeah, and anyway, I'll just wrap this up here then. Okay, guys, thanks for listening. That was Callum Johns. Check him out on Facebook and on his pages, which he mentioned earlier. I can repeat two of them: the Star Wars Fair Criticism and Appreciation Group, and also the Star Wars Discussion Room, if you fancy joining those pages. And that pretty much brings us to a close, I think. Is that okay with you, Callum?
Yeah. No, you can also contact me. You can probably find me on Twitter and YouTube as well if you want to. Not that I upload a lot of you. I don't upload a lot of content at the moment, but I'm thinking I'll do some YouTube videos later.
What's your YouTube page?
It's just my name at the moment. It's Callum Johns. It's
Okay.
got this picture of me in my Jedi cosplay.
Okay. I'll recommend to
So
subscribe to that.
cool.
Okay. Well, I think that pretty much brings us to a close. It's pardon me, guys, if this is a wee bit all over the place. It's the first one we've done. We're just kind of chatting away. Really, don't really have a big structure. Hopefully, you got most of it. And yeah, just take care and have a great day, and I'll see you around. Bye bye.
See ya.
Bye.